we're going to dive into an ancient philosophy, one that was born in a time of total chaos. And its ideas about power, about happiness, well, they might be more relevant right now than they've ever been. And it all kicks off with a really strange question.
Yeah, you heard that right. It's a weird question, isn't it? I mean, our whole world is built on hustle, on ambition, on doing more. The idea of doing less sounds, like a recipe for getting left behind. But about 2,500 years ago, some thinkers suggested this was the actual secret, not just to your own peace of mind, but to a better world for everyone.
So our story doesn't start with a king or a general. It starts with this quiet, kind of mysterious guy, a man who held all the secrets of an empire in his hands, and then one day just walked away. His name was Lao Tzu. Okay, so picture this. We're in China, maybe the 6th century BCE. The old Zhou dynasty is falling apart. Warlords are fighting over every scrap of land. It is just constant war, constant backstabbing. And right in the heart of it all, in the imperial capital, you've got Laozi. His job, he's the keeper of the archives. He's basically the head librarian for the whole empire, surrounded by scrolls that told the stories of how dynasties rise and how they fall. He saw firsthand how all that ambition, all that striving for power, almost always ended in disaster. I mean, his life is the stuff of pure legend. He was apparently so wise that even the great Confucius came to him for advice. But as the world got more and more chaotic, Lao Tzu just got fed up. He decided, I'm out, and headed west on a blue ox to leave it all behind. But as the story goes, a guard at the border pass recognized him and basically begged him, please don't let your wisdom just disappear. So Lao Tzu stopped, wrote down everything he knew in just 5,000 characters, handed it over, and then rode off, vanishing into the West for good. That little book he left behind, we now call it the Laozi or the Tao Te Ching. It laid out this totally radical new way of seeing the world. It wasn't about fighting against the chaos. It was about learning to flow with it. And at the absolute center of his thinking is this idea called the Tao. It's often translated as the way. For Lao Tzu, the Tao is like the natural, effortless current of the universe. It's that invisible logic that makes the seasons turn, the rivers flow to the ocean, and the stars move across the sky. It's the source of everything, but you can't really name it or pin it down. It just is. And this, right here, was Lao Tzu's game-changing idea. You see, everyone else was trying to fix the world with more rules, more laws, more ambition, more fighting. But Lao Tzu saw that all that effort was like trying to swim against a powerful river. His solution was the exact opposite. Stop struggling. Just stop. Instead, align yourself with that natural flow, the Tao, through something he called Wu Wei, which is this kind of effortless, spontaneous way of acting. So what does that actually look like in your life? Well, Lao Tzu's advice was surprisingly down to earth. Be content with what you have. Don't always be chasing more. Be gentle and flexible, like water, not hard and rigid. And maybe the most shocking idea of all, once you've achieved something great, just step back. Let it go. Don't cling to the glory or the power. Know when it's time to move on. So if Lao Tzu was the mysterious founder, the guy who really brought Daoism to life with these witty, unforgettable stories was Zhuangzi. He took Lao Tzu's deep philosophical ideas and made them sing. There's this great story about him. Apparently, Zhuangzi was so smart, so brilliant, that his reputation reached the king of Chu, who was one of the most powerful rulers around. The king decided he had to have Zhuangzi in his government. So he sends out 2 of his top officials, loaded up with expensive gifts, and they find Zhuangzi, of all things, just fishing by a river. They walk up and make him this incredible offer. Come to the capital and be prime minister. I mean, this is it. This is the top job, the ultimate power, wealth, fame. It's an offer that basically no one would ever refuse. But Zhuangzi, he doesn't even turn around. He just kind of smiles and tells them this little story. He says he heard that in the king's temple, there's the shell of a sacred tortoise that's been dead for 3,000 years, and it's kept in this fancy silk-lined box. And then he asks them, now tell me, would that tortoise rather be dead and honored in a box or alive, dragging its tail around in the mud? The officials had to admit, yeah, it would probably rather be alive in the mud. And Zhuangzi just says, go home.
I too would rather drag my tail in the mud.
And boom! That story tells you everything you need to know about Zhuangzi's whole philosophy. For him, real value was never in power or status. He saw that as just a beautiful cage. True value was freedom. His path was all about realizing that things we stress over, like success versus failure or good versus bad, they're all relative. And once you really get that, you can stop the pointless struggle for status. The goal is what he called free and easy wandering, this amazing state of spiritual freedom where you're just at peace with the world, like a happy tortoise in the mud.
So you've got these two incredible thinkers, right? One who literally vanishes into the mountains, and another who turns down the deal of a lifetime to stay in the mud. You'd think their ideas would just fade away, but no. Instead, their philosophy became this powerful, often hidden current that would shape Chinese culture for thousands of years.
In fact, Daoism became one of the 3 great pillars of Chinese thought. It stands right alongside Confucianism with its focus on society and Buddhism with its spiritual path. These 3 together really formed the foundation of the entire culture. But Daoism always played this very special role. You could say that if Confucianism was the visible philosophy, the one about how to run a government, your duties to your family, all the public stuff, then Daoism was its hidden partner. It was the philosophy for your inner life, for the artist in their studio, for the scholar in their garden. It was the perfect yin to Confucianism's yang, providing this essential balance. And once you start looking for it, you see its influence absolutely everywhere. It's in the misty landscapes of Chinese paintings, in the quiet beauty of nature poetry, in political strategies that favor yielding to win, and even in health practices like Tai Chi. It's a way of thinking that has quietly shaped art, medicine, and the search for inner peace for millions of people. So here's the thing. The ideas of these ancient rebels, these guys who turned their backs on what everyone else called success, they never really went away. And they challenge our busy modern world just as much as they challenged the warlords of ancient China, which brings us right back to where we started. In a world that is always, always demanding more from us, more work, more ambition, more stuff, what could we possibly gain by doing less? What kind of freedom could we find if we just gave ourselves permission every once in a while to drag our tails in the mud?